r/malicious compliance landlord hid mold for 4 months, so I sued after hospitalization. Chunk 1. The emergency room doctor's words hit me like a freight train. Your lungs look like you've been breathing poison for months. I stared at the chest x-ray illuminated on the lightbox, my supposedly healthy 24-year-old lungs looking like a war zone of inflammation and scarring. After 4 months of dismissive doctors telling me my persistent cough was probably allergies, and my landlord insisting the musty smell in my apartment was just old building character, I finally had an answer. And it was terrifying. Severe pulmonary inflammation consistent with prolonged mold exposure, Dr. Martinez continued, her voice grave. Whatever you've been breathing, it's been attacking your respiratory system systematically. You're lucky you came in when you did. Lucky. Right. I'd collapsed during my thesis defense preparation that morning, gasping for air like I'd run a marathon when all I'd done was walk up one flight of stairs. My advisor had to call 911 when I couldn't stop the violent coughing fit that followed. As I lay there hooked up to oxygen, my mind raced back to all those ignored red flags. The day I moved into what seemed like the perfect graduate student apartment, affordable, close to campus, recently renovated, according to my landlord, Marcus Brennan. I should have questioned why the rent was so reasonable for such a prime location. I should have questioned the weird chemical smell he claimed was from fresh paint. I should have questioned why he was so eager to get me signed and moved in the same day. But I was desperate. Starting my master's program at Northwestern with zero family money and a pathetic stipend, I couldn't afford to be picky. When Marcus showed me the bright, clean-looking studio with its shiny new drywall and fresh coat of white paint, I practically threw my deposit at him. The problem started within 2 weeks. First came the smell, a damp, earthy odor that seemed to seep from the walls themselves, strongest near the bathroom and kitchen. When I mentioned it to Marcus, he laughed it off. Old building smells, kiddo. Crack a window. Then came the headaches. Daily pounding that started the moment I woke up and only subsided when I left the apartment. My concentration plummeted. I'd sit at my desk trying to work on research, but my brain felt wrapped in cotton. My professors started commenting on my sudden academic decline. The respiratory symptoms appeared in month 2. A dry, persistent cough that kept me awake at night. Shortness of breath that I initially attributed to stress. Frequent sinus infections that antibiotics couldn't quite clear. I went to the campus health center repeatedly, but they kept treating symptoms without finding the cause. By month 3, I was documenting everything. Photos of the weird dark spots appearing around the bathroom baseboards. Screenshots of my mounting medical bills. Email after email to Marcus about the worsening smell and my health concerns. His responses became increasingly dismissive. You're being paranoid. Maybe you should see a psychiatrist. The apartment passed inspection. Month 4 brought desperation. I was failing classes I'd previously aced. My thesis advisor suggested I take medical leave. I'd spent over $3,000 on doctors, specialists, and medications that weren't working. Meanwhile, Marcus started avoiding my calls entirely. Now, lying in this hospital bed with an oxygen tube in my nose, everything clicked into place. The too good to be true apartment. The rushed move-in. The suspiciously fresh drywall. The pattern of dismissal and deflection. Marcus hadn't just been a negligent landlord. He'd been hiding something. And that something had nearly killed me. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. It was time to find out exactly what my landlord had been covering up. The first thing I did from my hospital bed was call my roommate from undergrad, Jake, who just finished his first year of law school. My hands were still trembling from the steroid treatments, but rage was quickly overpowering the fear. Mold poisoning. Jake's voice crackled through the phone. Jesus, Maya. How long were you breathing that stuff? 4 months. And I think my landlord knew. I filled him in on everything, the rushed move-in, the fresh drywall, Marcus's increasingly hostile responses to my health complaints. Okay, listen carefully, Jake said, his tone shifting into what I'd started calling his lawyer voice. Don't sign anything the hospital gives you about payment plans yet. Don't talk to your landlord if he contacts you. And whatever you do, don't let anyone into that apartment to fix anything until we document everything. Too late on that last point. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus while Jake was still talking. Asterisk heard you were in the hospital. So sorry. Maintenance will be by tomorrow to check things out. Hope you feel better soon, asterisk. I screenshotted it immediately. The timing was too convenient, too suspicious. For months of ignoring my complaints, and now suddenly he was concerned. He wants to send maintenance in tomorrow, I told Jake. Absolutely not. That's destruction of evidence. Can you get back to the apartment tonight? Dr. Martinez chose that moment to walk back in, chart in hand. I'm afraid you're staying at least another night for observation. Your oxygen levels are still concerning, and we need to monitor for secondary infections. My heart sank. I explained the situation, and to my surprise, Dr. Martinez's expression hardened. I've seen this before, she said quietly, glancing around to make sure we weren't overheard. Landlords who hide mold problems with quick cosmetic fixes. It's more common than you'd think, especially in student housing where tenants don't know their rights. She paused, seeming to weigh her words. Officially, I can't give you legal advice. Unofficially. Document everything. Every symptom, every medical visit, every expense. And get that apartment tested by an independent company, not someone your landlord chooses. After she left, I spent the next 3 hours making calls from my hospital bed. First to a locksmith, I was well within my rights to change the locks with proper notice. Then to a mold remediation company that did emergency testing. Finally, to my thesis advisor to explain why I'd be missing even more time. Professor Chen's response surprised me. Maya, I wondered about environmental factors when your performance changed so dramatically. You went from one of our strongest students to barely functioning seemingly overnight. If this is mold exposure, the university needs to know, especially if other students are renting from the same landlord. That comment stopped me cold. Other students. How many of Marcus's tenants were graduate students like me? Desperate, cash-strapped, unfamiliar with their rights? How many others might be getting sick? I pulled up Marcus's property management website on my phone. Brennan Student Housing, affordable, convenient apartments for Northwestern students. The testimonials page showed dozens of smiling young faces. I started screenshotting everything. My phone rang again, this time an unknown number. Maya Rodriguez? This is Marcus Brennan. Look, I heard about your hospital visit, and I want to make this right. What if we just call this whole thing even? I'll return your security deposit, we'll call off the lease, no hard feelings. The offer came so fast, so panicked, that I knew Jake was right. Marcus wasn't just negligent, he was guilty. And he knew exactly what I'd find in that apartment. I'll think about it, I lied, hitting record on my phone app. Time to find out how deep this really went. Chunk 3. I was discharged the next afternoon with a bag full of medications and strict instructions to avoid the contaminated environment at all costs. Dr. Martinez had been blunt, returning to that apartment could cause permanent lung damage or worse. Jake met me at the hospital entrance with a borrowed car and a grim expression. I've got updates, and none of them are good. As we drove toward my apartment, he filled me in on his research. I found 3 other students who've rented from Brennan in the past 2 years. 2 transferred schools mid-semester citing health issues, and 1 withdrew completely. I tracked down the girl who withdrew, Sarah Chen, no relation to your advisor. She spent 6 months in that same building, different unit. Respiratory problems, cognitive issues, the whole 9 yards. My stomach dropped. Did she know it was mold? She suspected, but could never prove it. Get this, when she moved out, Brennan made her sign an NDA in exchange for returning her security deposit. Said if she ever spoke publicly about her alleged health issues from the apartment, she'd owe him 10 grand for defamation. That's insane. Can he do that? Probably not legally enforceable, but Sarah was a broke international student facing deportation if she couldn't stay enrolled. She signed. Jake's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Maya, I think your landlord has been systematically poisoning students and covering it up. We pulled up to my building, and my blood ran cold. Marcus's maintenance van was parked outside, along with another truck I didn't recognize. Through my second-floor window, I could see figures moving around inside my apartment. Son of a bitch, Jake muttered, already dialing his phone. He's destroying evidence right now. I fumbled for my keys, but Jake grabbed my arm. No. You can't go in there, doctor's orders, remember? But I can. He finished dialing. Campus police. I need to report a break-in in progress. While we waited for the cops, I called the mold testing company. This is Maya Rodriguez. We scheduled emergency testing for today, but my landlord broke in and is doing unauthorized work right now. Don't let them finish, the technician said urgently. If they're covering up mold, we need to get samples before they seal everything up again. We can be there in 20 minutes. The campus police arrived first, 2 officers who initially seemed skeptical until I showed them the hospital discharge papers and Marcus's suspicious text from yesterday. When Marcus emerged from the building looking flustered, his story kept changing. I was just checking the ventilation system, he told the first officer. Routine maintenance, he told the second. The tenant requested repairs, he claimed when I played back yesterday's phone call where he'd offered to void the lease. But it was the maintenance worker who sealed Marcus's fate. A young guy who looked barely out of high school, he cracked the moment the police started asking questions. Look, I just do what he tells me, okay? He said tear out the bathroom wall behind the toilet and put up new drywall. Same thing we did 4 months ago. He glanced nervously at Marcus. There's black stuff everywhere back there. Made me sick just looking at it. Marcus went pale. Tommy, shut up. Is this the same work you've done in other units? One officer asked Tommy. Yeah, like 6 or 7 times this year. Always the same, scrape off the black stuff, spray some bleach, put up new walls real quick. He says it's just cosmetic. I felt vindicated and horrified in equal measure. 6 or 7 times. 6 or 7 students who'd been breathing hidden mold while Marcus collected rent money. The mold testing team arrived just as the officers were taking statements. What they found behind that hastily erected drywall made everyone step back in shock. The entire wall cavity was black. Not just spots or patches, the whole space looked like it was carpeted in dark, fuzzy growth. The smell that hit us was nauseating, even from outside the building. This is the worst residential infestation I've seen in 15 years, the lead technician said, pulling out his camera. This didn't grow in 4 months. This is years of water damage and neglect. As I watched them document Marcus's house of horrors, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Word was spreading on the Northwestern student Facebook groups. Sarah Chen had seen the posts and was messaging me directly. Asterisk I signed an NDA but I don't care anymore. We need to stop him. I have medical records and photos too, asterisk. Then another message, asterisk there are more of us. I'm making a group chat, asterisk. By evening, our group chat had 12 members. 12 students who'd gotten sick in Marcus Brennan's apartments. 12 victims who'd been gaslit, dismissed, and poisoned for profit. Marcus Brennan had no idea what he'd unleashed. Chunk 4. The group chat exploded overnight. By morning, we had 18 students, and the stories were horrifyingly similar. Mysterious respiratory illnesses, cognitive decline, thousands in medical bills, and Marcus's signature pattern of quick cosmetic fixes followed by aggressive legal threats. But it was Jessica Park's message that made my blood freeze, asterisk he's trying to evict me right now. Served papers this morning claiming I violated lease terms by making false accusations. I'm supposed to be out by Friday or he's calling the sheriff, asterisk. This was escalating fast. Marcus wasn't just covering up evidence anymore, he was going on the offensive. I called Jake immediately. He's retaliating against the other tenants. Can he do that? Retaliatory eviction is illegal in Illinois, but he's banking on students not knowing their rights. Jessica needs to respond to those papers or she'll lose by default. I could hear him typing furiously. Maya, we need to move faster. If he's panicking enough to start mass evictions, he might destroy evidence at the other properties too. That afternoon, I met Jessica at a coffee shop near campus. She looked exactly like I had 4 months ago, exhausted, sick, desperate. Her hands shook as she showed me the eviction notice. I can't fight this, she whispered. I'm on academic probation because my grades tanked. My parents think I'm just making excuses. If I get evicted, I'll have to drop out. You're not alone anymore, I told her, sliding a folder across the table. Jake had helped me compile everything, tenant rights information, contact details for legal aid, and a growing file of evidence from our group. We're building a case, but we need you to document everything in your apartment before he forces you out. That's when my phone rang. Campus newspaper. Maya Rodriguez? This is Alex Chen from the Daily Northwestern. We heard about potential health violations in student housing. Would you be willing to go on record? I glanced at Jessica, who was reading through the tenant rights pamphlet with the first hopeful expression I'd seen from her. Yes. It's time this went public. The article ran 2 days later, exclusive, students hospitalized after landlord allegedly conceals mold. Alex had done her homework, tracking down health department records that showed Marcus had been cited for moisture issues at 3 different properties over the past 5 years. Each time, he'd paid small fines and claimed the problems were fixed. The response was immediate and explosive. Our group chat jumped to 32 members within hours. Parents started calling the university demanding answers. Most importantly, 3 former tenants contacted me directly, including someone who graduated 2 years ago and still had breathing problems. But Marcus's response was swift and vicious. That evening, I got a call from my thesis advisor. Maya, I just got off the phone with someone claiming to be your landlord's attorney. They're threatening to sue the university if we don't discipline you for defamatory statements. They're also claiming you've been using drugs and that your health issues are from substance abuse, not mold. My hands went numb. Professor Chen, you can't believe that. Of course I don't. But the university legal department is nervous. They want to meet with you tomorrow. After I hung up, Jake called with worse news. Marcus filed a defamation lawsuit against you personally. He's claiming your false accusations have cost him rental income and damaged his reputation. He's asking for $50,000 in damages. I stared at the legal papers Jake had photographed and texted me. $50,000. My entire future, destroyed. My family would lose their house trying to pay for a lawyer. My education would be over. He's trying to scare you into backing down, Jake said. It's a classic slap suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. Rich people use them to silence critics who can't afford to fight back. But even knowing it was an intimidation tactic didn't make the threat less real. I was a graduate student with $12 in my checking account, facing off against a landlord with multiple properties and enough money for aggressive lawyers. As I sat in my friend's spare bedroom that night, still unable to return to my contaminated apartment, I realized Marcus had just made his biggest mistake. He'd shown exactly how far he was willing to go to protect his secret. And now I knew how far I was willing to go to stop him. The university meeting was a disaster. 3 administrators sat across from me in an oak-paneled conference room, their expressions ranging from uncomfortable to openly hostile. Dean Morrison, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, slid a document across the polished table. MS. Rodriguez, we need you to sign this statement acknowledging that your recent publicity doesn't represent the university's position on local housing matters. I scanned the carefully worded text. It was essentially a gag order disguised as a disclaimer. You want me to stop talking about what happened to me? We want you to be mindful that your statements affect the university's relationships with local property owners, said Janet Walsh from the legal department. Mr. Brennan's attorney has made it clear that continued defamatory statements could result in litigation against the university as well. My advisor, Professor Chen, shifted uncomfortably beside me. With respect, Janet, Maya nearly died from mold exposure. Shouldn't we be concerned about student safety? Alleged mold exposure, Dean Morrison corrected sharply. And Ms. Rodriguez's academic performance had already declined significantly before these health claims began. There are other possible explanations for her symptoms. The implication hit me like a slap. They were actually buying Marcus's drug abuse story. You want to see my medical records? I started reaching for my folder, but Janet held up a hand. What we want is for this situation to be resolved quietly. If Ms. Rodriguez signs this statement and agrees to refrain from further public comments, the university will help facilitate a transfer to alternate housing. And if I don't sign? The 3 administrators exchanged glances. Then we'll have to consider whether this disruption is compatible with continued enrollment, Dean Morrison said finally. I walked out without signing anything. But the damage was spreading faster than I could contain it. That afternoon, 2 more students from our group chat were served with eviction notices. Marcus was systematically purging anyone who joined our coalition, and it was working. 3 members had already dropped out, too terrified of losing their housing to continue fighting. Then came the call that changed everything. Maya. This is Dr. Patricia Vance from the Cook County Health Department. I need to speak with you immediately about the Brennan properties. We met at a downtown coffee shop that evening. Dr. Vance was a serious woman in her 50s with silver hair and intense eyes. She slid a manila folder across our small table. 3 weeks ago, we received a tip about potential health violations at multiple student rental properties. We've been conducting preliminary investigations. She paused. What we found is criminal. Inside the folder were photographs that made my stomach turn. Black mold colonies covering entire walls. Water damage so extensive that floorboards had rotted through. Air quality readings that were off the charts toxic. This isn't just your building, Maya. We've identified 7 properties where Brennan has been covering up extensive mold contamination with cosmetic repairs. We estimate over 40 students have been exposed to dangerous levels of mycotoxins over the past 3 years. 40 students. The number hit me like a physical blow. The problem is evidence, Dr. Vance continued. Every time we try to schedule official inspections, Brennan's crew gets there first and seals everything up. By the time our inspectors arrive, they find fresh drywall and claim they can't see any problems. So he's always one step ahead. Until now. That newspaper article spooked him into moving too fast. He's got crews working on 3 buildings simultaneously, trying to cover everything up at once. But we have an opportunity, if we can coordinate simultaneous inspections before he finishes the cover-ups. She leaned forward intently. Maya, we need you to keep him distracted. Keep him focused on fighting you in court instead of watching his other properties. Can you do that? I thought about Jessica, about Sarah Chen, about 40 other students who trusted Marcus with their health and safety. About the university administrators who'd rather silence victims than confront the truth. What do you need me to do? Dr. Vance's plan was brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. While Marcus focused his resources on silencing me and covering up my building, health inspectors would hit his other 6 properties simultaneously during a coordinated raid. But keeping him distracted meant making myself an even bigger target. You'll need to escalate the legal pressure, Dr. Vance explained. File complaints with every agency you can think of. Make noise. Force him to spend his time and money responding to you instead of managing the cover-up operations. I left that meeting with a list of agencies that felt like homework from hell: Illinois Attorney General, Better Business Bureau, Fair Housing Authority, Cook County Building Department, even the IRS tip line for potential tax fraud. Each complaint would require documentation, follow-up calls, and sworn statements. Jake helped me file the paperwork over the next 2 days. This is either genius or complete suicide, he muttered, reviewing my formal complaint to the Attorney General's office. You're basically painting a target on your back and dancing around saying, shoot me. He was right. Marcus's response was swift and vicious. First came the amended lawsuit, now demanding $200,000 for defamation, plus attorney fees and punitive damages for malicious prosecution. Then my car was towed from the street outside my friend's apartment, allegedly for unpaid parking tickets that I'd never received. When I called the tow company, they claimed Marcus had paid the fees and requested the car be held as collateral for unpaid rent. But the worst blow came through my mother. Mija, a lawyer, called me today, Mom said when I picked up her evening call. Her voice was shaking. He said you're being sued for a lot of money. He said if you lose, they can go after our house because we co-signed your student loans. My blood went cold. Mom, that's not how student loans work. He's lying. But what if he's not? Maya, we could lose everything. Maybe you should just apologize and make this go away. After I hung up, I sat in my borrowed bedroom staring at the ceiling. Marcus had found my pressure point. My parents had remortgaged their house to help pay for my education. If I dragged this out and somehow lost everything in court, I wouldn't just destroy my own life, I'd destroy theirs too. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk still time to make this disappear. Drop the complaints, sign the NDA, walk away. Your choice, asterisk. For about 30 seconds, I seriously considered it. Take the escape route. Transfer schools, start over somewhere else, pretend none of this ever happened. Let Marcus keep poisoning students as long as it wasn't my problem anymore. Then Jessica called, sobbing. Maya, I'm in the ER. I collapsed during my statistics exam. The doctor says my lung function has dropped to 60%. My parents are flying in from Seoul because they think I'm dying. Her voice broke. I can't keep living in that apartment, but if I break the lease early, Marcus says I'll owe him $8,000 in penalties. I don't have that kind of money. That decided it. The next morning, I called every local news station and scheduled interviews. If Marcus wanted to escalate, I'd give him escalation. But first, I called Dr. Vance. The raids need to happen now. He's getting more desperate, which means he's going to start cutting corners. How soon can you move? Tomorrow morning, if you can guarantee he'll be distracted. I looked at my phone, already buzzing with callbacks from news producers. Oh, he'll be distracted. Time to turn myself into the biggest, loudest, most unavoidable story Marcus Brennan had ever faced. The morning of the coordinated raids, I sat in the Channel 7 news van at 6 a.m., watching Marcus's building through the tinted windows. My phone had been buzzing non-stop since the previous evening's broadcast aired, graduate student battles slumlord over toxic mold exposure. You ready for this? Asked reporter Jennifer Walsh, checking her microphone levels. Once we go live, there's no walking it back. I nodded, though my hands were shaking. The plan was simple: keep Marcus busy with a live television interview outside his main office building while health inspectors simultaneously hit all 6 contaminated properties. Dr. Vance had positioned teams at each location, waiting for my signal. At exactly 7:30 a.m., as Marcus pulled into his parking space, I stepped out of the van. Jennifer and her cameraman flanked me as we approached his office entrance. Mr. Brennan. Jennifer called out. Jennifer Walsh, Channel 7 News. We'd like to get your response to allegations that you've been systematically exposing students to dangerous mold contamination. Marcus froze, his face cycling through surprise, anger, and what looked like panic. Behind him, I could see his secretary frantically making phone calls through the office window. No comment, he snapped, fumbling with his keys. Ms. Rodriguez here claims you've been covering up mold problems with cosmetic repairs while collecting rent from 6 students. Care to respond? That's when Marcus made his first mistake. Instead of disappearing into his office, his temper got the better of him. This girl is a liar and a drug addict, he snarled, pointing at me. She's trying to shake me down for money because she can't handle graduate school. I've got documentation that she's been. What kind of documentation? Jennifer interrupted smoothly. I watched Marcus realize he'd just taken the bait on live television. While he scrambled to backtrack, my phone buzzed with the text I'd been waiting for, asterisk teams in position. Go, asterisk. I sent back a simple thumbs up emoji. Across the city, 6 health inspection teams were simultaneously entering Marcus's properties with legal search warrants. Look, this is harassment, Marcus said, his voice rising. I run legitimate student housing. Every property is inspected and up to code. If this girl got sick, it's from her own lifestyle choices, not. His phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his face went white. Excuse me, he muttered, stepping away to answer. Even from 10 feet away, I could hear the shouting from whoever was on the other end. Marcus's responses were sharp, panicked whispers. What do you mean they're inside? And, I don't care what the warrant says, get them out. When he hung up, his entire demeanor had changed. The bluster was gone, replaced by cold calculation. This interview is over, he announced, but Jennifer wasn't done. Mr. Brennan, we've received reports that you've been served with multiple agency complaints in the past week. Are you facing criminal charges? My lawyer will be in touch, Marcus said, but as he turned toward his office, another call came in. Then another. I watched him juggle 3 different phone conversations, each one apparently worse than the last. That's when I spotted the real problem. A black sedan with tinted windows had pulled up across the street. 2 men in expensive suits got out, and they were both looking directly at me. One of them was taking photos with a long lens camera. My stomach dropped. Marcus hadn't just hired lawyers, he'd hired investigators. And while I'd been focused on keeping him distracted from the health department raids, I'd made myself completely exposed. Jennifer noticed my sudden tension. Maya. What's wrong? Before I could answer, one of the men started walking toward us, his hand reaching into his jacket. This was about to go very wrong, very fast. Chunk 8. The man approaching us wasn't reaching for a weapon, he was pulling out a badge. FBI. MS. Rodriguez, Agent David Kim, Federal Bureau of Investigation. We need to speak with you immediately. Jennifer's cameraman swung toward the agent, but Kim held up his hand. Camera off. Now. My mind reeled. FBI. What could they possibly want with a graduate student fighting a slumlord? Unless. This is about more than mold, isn't it? I asked, my voice barely steady. Agent Kim nodded grimly. Mr. Brennan's operations have attracted federal attention for reasons beyond housing violations. We've been building a case for 18 months. Across the parking lot, Marcus was still juggling frantic phone calls, but I could see him watching our interaction with growing alarm. His face had gone from pale to gray. What kind of case? Wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering. Brennan's been running a sophisticated scam operation across 3 states, using student housing as a front. The mold contamination is just one piece of a much larger criminal enterprise. Agent Kim's partner, who'd introduced herself as Agent Torres, joined us with a tablet full of documents. Maya, your complaint to the Attorney General triggered flags in our ongoing investigation. We think Brennan's been deliberately targeting vulnerable student populations, international students, graduate students with no family money, anyone unlikely to have resources to fight back. The scope of it hit me like a physical blow. How many victims are we talking about? Conservative estimate. Over 200 students across Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. We've documented fake inspection reports, bribed building officials, fraudulent insurance claims for renovations that never happened. The mold cover-ups are actually the least of his crimes. I watched Marcus end another call and start heading toward his car in obvious panic. He's running. No, he's not, Agent Torres said calmly, speaking into a small radio. Unit 3, suspect is mobile. Unmarked vehicles appeared from 3 different directions, boxing in Marcus's car before he could even get the engine started. Through the windshield, I could see him pounding the steering wheel in fury. But Agent Kim's next words wiped away any satisfaction I might have felt. Maya, Brennan knows we're closing in, which makes him extremely dangerous. In the past 48 hours, we've intercepted communications suggesting he's considering permanent solutions to his witness problem. 2 students who filed complaints against him in Wisconsin have received death threats. My blood turned to ice water. Death threats? Veiled, but credible. Accidents happen to people who don't mind their own business. Careful crossing streets at night. That type of thing. Agent Torres pulled up a file on her tablet. We think he's desperate enough to escalate beyond legal intimidation. I thought about my parents, about Jessica lying in that hospital bed, about the dozens of students in our group chat who'd already put themselves at risk by coming forward. What do you need from me? Everything you've documented. Medical records, communications, financial data, witness statements from other victims. But more than that, we need you to keep being visible. As long as you're in the public eye, he can't make you disappear quietly. Agent Kim handed me a card with a phone number written on the back. Direct line, 24/7. If anything feels wrong, and I mean anything, you call immediately. We're going to have surveillance on you, but discreet. You won't see us, but we'll be watching. Across the parking lot, Marcus was being led away in handcuffs, shouting something I couldn't quite hear. But even as the FBI agents put him in their vehicle, I noticed his lawyer had arrived and was already making calls. This isn't over, is it? I asked. Arrest is just the beginning, Agent Torres confirmed. His organization is bigger than just him. We've identified at least 3 other property managers running similar operations, and they're all going to be very motivated to keep their star witness quiet. As the federal agents drove away with Marcus in custody, Jennifer approached me cautiously. Maya, I know this is overwhelming, but we're sitting on the story of the year. Student housing fraud, federal investigation, criminal enterprise, this is national news. I looked at my phone, already buzzing with messages from our group chat. The other students deserved to know that their nightmare was finally ending. But Agent Kim's warning echoed in my head, being visible kept me safe, but it also painted an even bigger target. The question was, how big could that target get before someone decided to eliminate it permanently? The first attempt on my life came disguised as a gas leak. I was staying at Jake's off-campus apartment while the FBI finished processing my contaminated unit as evidence. 3 days after Marcus's arrest, I woke up at 2 a.m. to Jake shaking me violently. Maya, get up. We need to get out now. The smell hit me as soon as I sat up, that distinctive rotten egg odor of natural gas, thick and overwhelming. Jake was already throwing clothes into a bag with one hand while calling 911 with the other. The whole building's being evacuated, he said, pulling me toward the door. Gas company says there's a massive leak in the basement. We stumbled outside to find fire trucks and emergency crews surrounding the building. Residents clustered on the sidewalk in pajamas and coats, everyone looking confused and frightened. The fire chief was setting up a wide perimeter, treating it like the building might explode at any moment. But something felt wrong. Jake, I whispered, pulling him aside. How did you wake up? Gas leaks are usually odorless until they add that smell, and that only happens if someone wanted it to be detected, he finished grimly. Maya, this wasn't an accident. Agent Kim appeared at my elbow like a ghost. I hadn't even seen him arrive. We need to move you. Now. His voice was urgent but controlled. This was a distraction. While everyone's focused on a gas leak, someone cut the phone lines to the building and disabled the cell tower 2 blocks away. Classic isolation tactic. My phone was indeed dead, no signal bars at all. Around me, other residents were holding up their devices in confusion, trying to figure out why nothing was working. But Marcus is in federal custody, I protested, even as Agent Kim guided me toward an unmarked car. Marcus Brennan was released on bail 6 hours ago. His lawyer posted $2 million bond before the paperwork even processed. Kim opened the passenger door for me. He made one phone call from jail, and 3 hours later, there's a suspicious gas leak at your temporary housing. Draw your own conclusions. As we drove away, I watched Jake's building shrink in the rearview mirror, emergency lights still flashing. What about Jake? Is he safe? We're moving him too. Along with Jessica Park and 4 other students from your group who've been getting increasingly specific threats. Agent Kim turned onto the highway, checking his mirrors constantly. Maya, Brennan's not just running a housing scam anymore. He's fighting for his life. A federal racketeering conviction means 25 to life. He's got nothing left to lose. We drove in silence for 20 minutes before pulling into what looked like a budget motel on the outskirts of the city. But when we got inside, I realized it was actually a safe house, multiple agents, surveillance equipment, and bulletproof windows disguised as regular glass. Agent Torres was waiting with a stack of documents that made my stomach sink. We intercepted these communications an hour ago. The printouts were text message chains between unknown numbers, but the content was chillingly clear. Problem needs permanent solution. Girls got federal protection now. Asterisk doesn't matter. Accidents happen asterisk. Asterisk make it look random. Car accident, maybe asterisk. Asterisk or fire. Students die in fires all the time asterisk. I set the papers down with shaking hands. They're really going to try to kill me. They're going to try, Agent Torres corrected. But Maya, you need to understand something. The moment you go into hiding, the moment you stop being a public witness, 20 other students lose their protection too. Brennan's organization isn't just targeting you, they're planning to eliminate everyone who can testify against them. She pulled up photos on her laptop. Sarah Chen, Jessica Park, the maintenance worker Tommy who'd admitted to covering up the mold. Every single person in these photos has received death threats in the past 48 hours. If we pull you out of sight, they become sitting ducks. The weight of it crashed over me. Staying visible kept me alive, but it also kept everyone else alive. Going into hiding would save me but doom my friends. What's the alternative? Agent Kim's smile was sharp and dangerous. We accelerate everything. Grand jury testimony, media blitz, congressional hearing. Make you so famous that killing you becomes impossible. And if that doesn't work, then we find out just how far Marcus Brennan is willing to go. Chunk 10. The grand jury testimony was scheduled for Monday morning. By Sunday night, I'd received 47 death threats. Agent Torres sat across from me in the safe house kitchen, sorting through printouts of the messages like they were grocery receipts. Vehicle accident seems to be the preferred method, she said with disturbing clinical detachment. 17 variations on brake failure, 12 mentions of unfortunate collisions, and one particularly creative suggestion involving a cement truck. You're enjoying this way too much, I muttered, picking at the Chinese takeout that had gone cold an hour ago. My appetite had disappeared somewhere around threat number 30. What I'm enjoying is watching Brennan's organization panic, Torres replied. Desperate people make mistakes. And they've made a big one. Agent Kim walked in holding his phone, his expression grim. We've got a problem. Judge Morrison just issued an emergency injunction blocking Maya's testimony. The chopsticks fell from my numb fingers. What? How is that possible? Brennan's lawyers filed a motion claiming your testimony would be prejudicial and inflammatory, and that you're an unreliable witness with clear financial motivations to fabricate evidence. Kim sat down heavily. The judge bought it. The grand jury hearing is postponed indefinitely pending a competency evaluation. Torres swore in Spanish. They're trying to have you declared mentally incompetent. If they succeed, nothing you say can be used in court. My phone rang, Dr. Martinez from the hospital. I answered on speaker. Maya, I just got a very strange call from someone claiming to be with your legal team. They want access to your complete medical records, including any psychiatric evaluations or substance abuse screenings. Her voice was tight with suspicion. I told them to send official paperwork, but something felt off. Dr. Martinez, I don't have a legal team requesting those records. That's what I figured. Maya, I think someone's trying to build a case that your symptoms were caused by drug use rather than mold exposure. They specifically asked about toxicology reports and whether we tested for hallucinogens. After she hung up, the three of us stared at each other in the fluorescent kitchen light. They're not just trying to silence you, Torres said slowly. They're trying to destroy your credibility entirely. Paint you as a delusional drug user whose mold poisoning was actually a psychotic break. Agent Kim was already on his phone. I need a background check on Judge Morrison. Financial records, property holdings, any connection to Brennan or his associates. He covered the phone and looked at me. Maya, we might have a bigger problem than death threats. We might have judicial corruption. As if on cue, my own phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk competency hearing tomorrow 9 a.m. Suggest you don't attend. Psychiatric evaluations can be unpredictable, asterisk. The threat was clear. Show up to defend my mental competency, and they'd make sure I failed that evaluation permanently. But then Jake called with news that changed everything. Maya, you need to see the Daily Northwestern website right now. Sarah Chen just published an op-ed, and it's everywhere. I pulled up the article on Agent Torres' laptop. I broke my NDA, how Brennan's student housing nearly killed me and dozens of others. Sarah hadn't just broken her silence, she'd included photographs, medical records, and the original NDA that Brennan had forced her to sign. The comments section was exploding. Students from 3 different universities sharing their own stories. Parents demanding investigations. Local news stations picking up the story. But the final paragraph made my blood run cold. Asterisk, I'm not afraid anymore. They can sue me, threaten me, or try to destroy my credibility, but I won't let them silence the truth. If something happens to me or Maya Rodriguez or any other victim who speaks out, the world will know exactly who's responsible. Asterisk. Sarah had just painted herself as an even bigger target than me. And according to the timestamp, she'd published the article 2 hours ago. 2 hours, and we hadn't heard from her since. Agent Kim finished his call and looked at us with an expression I'd never seen before, genuine fear. Sarah Chen missed her check-in call 30 minutes ago. Her apartment appears empty, and her car is gone. They hadn't just threatened to kill witnesses. They'd actually started. The search for Sarah lasted 6 agonizing hours. Agent Kim coordinated with local police while Torres worked her phone, calling every contact in the Chicago field office. I sat in a safe house watching news coverage of my own story, feeling helpless as reporters speculated about missing student whistleblowers and escalating threats. At 3 a.m., Sarah called me directly. Maya, thank God, she whispered, her voice shaking. I'm okay, but I had to run. They came to my apartment. Who came? Sarah, where are you? I don't know who they were. 3 men in suits, claiming to be federal marshals. But Agent Kim told me real feds would coordinate through him first, so when they started asking me to come with them for protective custody, I went out the fire escape. Agent Torres grabbed the phone. Sarah, this is Agent Torres. Are you somewhere safe? I'm at my cousin's place in Milwaukee. But Maya, they knew things. Personal things about my family back in Korea, my father's business, my sister's school. They said cooperation would be beneficial for everyone I care about. The threat was clear, comply or watch your loved ones suffer consequences. Torres put the phone on speaker as Agent Kim joined us. Sarah, we're going to get you proper protection, but first we need to know exactly what these men look like and what they said. As Sarah described the encounter, Agent Kim's expression grew darker. Professional surveillance equipment outside her building. Knowledge of her daily routine. Access to personal information that should have been confidential. Maya, Kim said after Sarah hung up, we have a leak. The words hit me like ice water. A leak where? Someone in law enforcement is feeding information to Brennan's people. How else would they know Sarah's family details, or that you were staying at Jake's apartment, or exactly when to schedule their competency hearing ambush? Torres was already pulling up files on her laptop. We need to assume everything we've told local police, the university, even the health department, has been compromised. Maya, think back, who have you been in contact with besides us? My mind raced through the past week. Campus police who'd taken the initial report. University administrators who pressured me to stay quiet. Health department officials coordinating the raids. The judge who'd blocked my testimony. Dr. Vance, I said suddenly. From the health department. She knew everything about the coordinated raids, the timing, which properties to hit. Agent Kim was already dialing. Dr. Vance, this is Agent Kim, FBI. I need to speak with you immediately about the Brennan investigation. His face went white as he listened to the response. Dr. Patricia Vance doesn't work for the Cook County Health Department, he said slowly, hanging up. She never did. They have no record of anyone by that name. The room spun around me. The woman who'd orchestrated the entire health department strategy, who'd convinced me to make myself a target to distract Marcus, who knew every detail of our evidence and timeline, she was working for the other side. She played us, I whispered. The whole health department raid was a setup to flush out witnesses and identify who had evidence against them. Torres was typing furiously. Maya, think carefully. What exactly did you tell this fake Dr. Vance? What evidence did you share? Everything. I told her about our group chat members, our documentation, our planned legal strategy. I'd handed her a complete roadmap to destroy our case. But worse than that, I'd given her a list of every student who was willing to testify. Oh God, I breathed. She has all their names. Everyone in our group chat, everyone who contacted us after the news story. She knows exactly who to threaten. Agent Kim was already on his radio, calling for immediate protection details on dozens of students across 3 states. But we all knew the truth, they couldn't protect everyone. Marcus Brennan's organization wasn't just trying to silence me anymore. They were systematically eliminating every witness who could threaten their empire. And I'd handed them the complete target list. As dawn broke over the safe house, my phone lit up with emergency notifications from our group chat. One by one, the messages told the same story. Police at my door claiming I need to come in for questioning, men in suits asking my neighbors about me, got pulled over for routine traffic stop that lasted 2 hours. The net was closing, and I was running out of people to save. Chunk 12. The breakthrough came from the most unlikely source, Marcus Brennan himself. At 4:17 a.m., my phone rang with a call from Cook County Jail. I stared at the caller ID in disbelief before answering on speaker with both agents listening. Maya Rodriguez? The voice was barely recognizable, hoarse, desperate, nothing like the confident landlord who'd dismissed my complaints for months. Marcus? Listen to me very carefully. You're in danger. We're all in danger. His words came out in a rush. The people I was working with, they're not just trying to silence you anymore. They're cleaning house. Everyone who knows about the operation. Agent Kim leaned toward the phone. Mr. Brennan, this is Agent Kim, FBI. Are you saying your own associates are targeting you? A bitter laugh. They tried to have me killed 3 hours ago. Right here in protective custody. Guard on their payroll tried to make it look like a suicide. Marcus's voice cracked. I've been running student housing scams for 5 years, but this is something else entirely. Something I never signed up for. My hands were shaking. What do you mean? The housing fraud was just the entry point. Once they had students isolated, sick, desperate, that's when the real business started. Identity theft, financial fraud, human trafficking for students whose visas were compromised. He paused, breathing heavily. Maya, that woman who contacted you claiming to be from the health department. Dr. Vance. She's not law enforcement. She runs the entire operation. Agent Torres grabbed her laptop, typing rapidly. Marcus, we need names, locations, documentation. If you're telling the truth, we can protect you, but we need everything. I kept records. Insurance, you know. Files on everyone involved, including the cops and judges they bought. It's all in a safety deposit box at First National Bank on State Street. His voice dropped to a whisper. Box 847. Keys taped under the sink in Unit 3B of my Maple Street property. Agent Kim was already coordinating with his team, but I caught something in Marcus's tone that made my stomach clench. Marcus, why are you telling us this now? Why help me after everything? A long silence. Because I just found out what they're planning for tomorrow. Maya, the competency hearing isn't about discrediting you. It's about getting you to a specific location where they control security, witnesses, everything. What do you mean? The courthouse they assigned for your hearing. It's not the main county building. It's a smaller satellite office they've compromised. Judge Morrison, the court reporter, the bailiffs, they're all in on it. His voice was barely audible now. You walk into that hearing tomorrow, you don't walk back out. Agent Torres looked up from her screen, face pale. He's right. The hearing location was changed 6 hours ago to the Daily Annex building. That courthouse has had security renovations for the past month, no metal detectors, limited surveillance, skeleton crew. The plan was sickeningly elegant. Get me to an isolated courthouse under the pretense of a legal hearing. Control every person in the building. Make my death look like a tragic accident or suicide, the mentally unstable student who couldn't handle the pressure of her accusations being challenged. There's more, Marcus continued. The students in your group chat, they're not just being threatened. They're being systematically discredited and isolated. Fake drug arrests, academic probation based on forged documents, immigration problems for the international students. By the time your case goes to trial, every witness will either be dead, deported, or completely unreliable. Agent Kim finished his radio coordination and turned back to us. Marcus, if we get that safety deposit box, will it have enough evidence to take down the entire network? Everything. Bank records, property transactions, payroll records for corrupt officials. But Maya needs to stay alive long enough for it to matter. His voice became urgent. They think I'm dead already, the guard who tried to kill me reported mission accomplished. That gives us maybe 12 hours before they realize I'm still talking. As if summoned by his words, alarms started blaring throughout the jail. Even over the phone, we could hear shouting, running footsteps, chaos. They know, Marcus whispered. Maya, whatever you do, don't go to that courthouse tomorrow. Don't trust anyone in an official capacity. The corruption goes higher than you think. The line went dead. Agent Torres was already packing equipment. We move now. Get that safety deposit box before they realize Marcus compromised their operation. But as we prepared to leave the safe house, Agent Kim's phone rang with news that made my blood freeze. The Daily Annex courthouse just had a gas leak. Buildings being evacuated and sealed for emergency repairs. He looked at me grimly. They're not waiting for tomorrow's hearing anymore, Maya. They're coming for you tonight. Chunk 13. The safety deposit box was a trap. We realized it 30 seconds too late, as Agent Kim's hand froze on the bank vault door. The silence was wrong, no ambient noise, no security guard chatter, nothing but the hum of fluorescent lights that should have been accompanied by normal building sounds at 6 a.m. Back out, Torres whispered, but we could already hear the footsteps echoing from the main lobby. Heavy boots, multiple sets, moving with military precision. Service corridor, Kim breathed, pointing to an emergency exit I hadn't noticed. Now. We slipped through the narrow hallway as voices filled the vault area behind us. Not police voices, too coordinated, too quiet. These were professionals who didn't need to announce themselves or read Miranda rights. My phone buzzed as we reached the parking garage. Text message, asterisk box 847 cleaned out 3 hours ago. Marcus played his last card. You're alone now, asterisk. They hadn't just anticipated Marcus's betrayal, they'd counted on it. Let him lead us into the open where we'd be easier to eliminate. Maya. Agent Torres grabbed my arm as we reached her car. Kim and I need to split up. Draw them away from you while we figure out who else is compromised. No way. You're literally the only people I can trust. That's exactly why we need to separate. If they take us all out together, there's no one left to tell the story. Kim was already heading for a different vehicle. There's a 24-hour diner on Route 47, Millie's Kitchen. Meet us there in 2 hours if you can. If not, call the number I gave you and ask for Agent Rodriguez in the Chicago field office. Tell her, Brennan cleanup protocol. As they drove away in opposite directions, I sat alone in the parking garage trying not to panic. My phone showed 17 missed calls from unknown numbers and a text from Jake that made my stomach drop, asterisk Maya, they arrested me. Fake drug charges. Get out of Chicago, asterisk. One by one, they were eliminating everyone in my support network. Soon I'd be completely isolated, with no credible witnesses and no one to verify my story. Just a mentally unstable graduate student with a history of making wild accusations. I started driving toward the diner, checking my mirrors obsessively. 3 different cars had followed me for various stretches, but I couldn't tell if I was being paranoid or genuinely tailed. Every traffic light felt like a potential ambush point. Halfway there, my phone rang. Dr. Martinez from the hospital. Maya, I'm calling from my personal cell. Something very strange is happening. A team claiming to be from the CDC just confiscated all your medical records. They had official-looking paperwork, but when I called CDC directly, they said no such investigation exists. My medical evidence, the proof that I'd been poisoned by mold exposure, was being systematically erased. Without those records, I had no way to prove my symptoms were real rather than fabricated or drug-induced. Dr. Martinez, I need you to. Maya, there's more. They're also seizing records from other students who were treated for similar respiratory symptoms. Jessica Park, Sarah Chen, at least 6 others. They're wiping out all medical evidence that connects to your story. As I hung up, a black SUV pulled alongside me at a red light. Through the tinted passenger window, I could see someone taking photographs with a long lens camera. When the light turned green, they stayed parallel to me instead of passing. I took a sharp right turn. The SUV followed. Left turn. Still following. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I realized the horrible truth. They weren't trying to kill me in some elaborate courthouse ambush anymore. They were doing something much smarter. They were documenting my erratic behavior. The panic driving, the paranoid route changes, the inability to stay in one location. Building a case that I was having a psychological breakdown. By the time I reached Millie's kitchen, I'd have a complete surveillance record showing a mentally unstable young woman driving recklessly around the city, clearly delusional and dangerous. When neither Agent Kim nor Torres showed up at the diner, I'd have video evidence of me talking to myself, checking empty booths, exhibiting classic paranoid behavior. The perfect setup for the morning news. Mentally ill students' delusions turn dangerous. Police seek psychiatric hold. My phone buzzed one final time. Stop running, Maya. We can help you. The psychiatric facility is comfortable, and treatment for your condition is very effective. They didn't need to kill me anymore. They were going to make me disappear into the mental health system, where anything I said would be dismissed as the ravings of a delusional patient. And I was driving straight into their trap. The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer as I sat in Millie's kitchen parking lot, watching that black SUV idle across the street. They weren't just building a case for my mental incompetence, they were creating it in real time. Every panic turn I'd made, every time I checked my mirrors, every moment of visible stress was being carefully documented to paint the picture of a delusional student having a complete psychological break. When they finally moved to have me committed, they'd have hours of surveillance footage showing erratic and dangerous behavior. But I wasn't completely powerless yet. I pulled out my phone and opened the live stream app Jake had insisted I download weeks ago. If they wanted to document my behavior, I'd give them documentation they couldn't control. Hi, this is Maya Rodriguez, I said to the camera, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. It's 8:47 a.m. on November 15th, and I'm being followed by people trying to have me declared mentally incompetent to prevent my testimony about student housing fraud. I turned the phone to show the black SUV, zooming in on the license plate. That vehicle has been tailing me for 37 minutes, photographing my driving. This is part of a coordinated effort to discredit witnesses in a federal investigation. The live stream was already gaining viewers, 47, then 89, then 156 people watching in real time as I exposed their surveillance operation. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Unknown number, but I answered it on speaker while keeping the live stream running. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Dr. Patricia Hoffman, Cook County Emergency Mental Health Services. We've received reports that you may be experiencing a psychiatric crisis. I'd like to help you. Interesting timing, I said, making sure my live stream audience could hear everything. Who exactly reported this psychiatric crisis? Multiple concerned parties have observed your behavior over the past several days. Erratic driving, paranoid statements, inability to maintain stable housing. We can provide immediate assistance if you'll just tell me your current location. The live stream comment section was exploding. Viewers were recognizing the manipulation in real time, screenshotting the conversation, sharing the stream. My audience had jumped to over 300 people. Dr. Hoffman, are you aware that the person you're trying to help is a federal witness in an ongoing criminal investigation? That might be relevant to your assessment. A pause. Too long. Ms. Rodriguez, federal investigations can be very stressful. Sometimes people experiencing that kind of pressure develop paranoid ideation, false memories, elaborate conspiracy theories. Like the conspiracy theory that my landlord was covering up mold contamination. Because the FBI seems to think that one's pretty credible. I was gaining confidence as the viewer count climbed past 500. In fact, they arrested Marcus Brennan just 5 days ago on federal charges. Another pause. In the background, I could hear muffled voices, someone giving Dr. Hoffman instructions. Maya, I understand you believe these things are real, but trauma can create very convincing false narratives. The mind's way of coping with stress sometimes involves creating elaborate stories that feel completely true to the person experiencing them. The gaslighting was textbook perfect, delivered in a calm, clinical tone designed to make me sound increasingly unstable if I disagreed. But now I had nearly 800 people watching her try to manipulate me into questioning my own reality. Comments were flooding in. This is terrifying. Someone record this. Call the real FBI. She's being set up. That's when I spotted Agent Torres's car pulling into the diner parking lot. Real backup, finally. But as she got out of the vehicle, something was wrong. Her movements were too stiff, too controlled. And there was a second figure in her passenger seat who definitely wasn't Agent Kim. My blood turned to ice as I realized the truth. They hadn't just compromised local law enforcement and court officials. They'd gotten to the FBI agents assigned to protect me. I was truly alone now, with nothing but a live stream and 1,200 strangers as witnesses to whatever was about to happen. Dr. Hoffman, I said into the phone, backing my car toward the parking lot exit, I think I'll pass on your assistance. But thanks for the demonstration of how this whole operation works. I hung up and floored the accelerator, leaving the black SUV and the compromised federal agent behind. But my phone was already ringing again, this time with a number that made my heart stop. Mom. They'd moved on to threatening my family. Chunk 15. The phone call from my mother changed everything. Mija, there are men here asking questions about you, Mom's voice was shaking. They say you're in trouble and they need to know where you are. They have badges but, something doesn't feel right. That's when I knew exactly what I had to do. They'd made their fatal mistake by threatening my family. Mom, lock the doors and don't let anyone in. I'm about to end this. I turned my car toward downtown Chicago, live stream still running with over 2,000 viewers now. The comments section had become a real-time investigation as people shared screenshots, recorded clips, and dug up information about the fake Dr. Hoffman and the suspicious courthouse venue change. But more importantly, legitimate journalists were starting to pay attention. 3 verified news accounts had joined the stream, and I could see reshares climbing into the thousands. Everyone watching, I said to the camera, I'm driving to FBI headquarters downtown. Not to some compromised safe house or fake courthouse, but to the main federal building with real security cameras and witnesses. My phone exploded with calls from unknown numbers, all trying to redirect me somewhere else. Dr. Hoffman calling back with increasingly urgent offers of immediate help. Someone claiming to be Agent Kim saying there was a change of plans. Even a voice claiming to be my thesis advisor saying the university needed to see me right away. I ignored them all and kept driving, narrating everything for my live stream audience, who were now approaching 3,000 viewers and growing exponentially. That's when the real FBI called. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI Chicago Field Office. We've been monitoring your live stream and we need to clarify something immediately. How do I know you're real? Because I'm going to tell you something that wasn't in any of our compromised communications. Your original complaint about Marcus Brennan triggered an investigation we've been running for 2 years into a multi-state organized crime network. The agents you knew as Kim and Torres were never FBI, they were sent to control your case from the beginning. My stomach dropped. Then who have I been trusting this whole time? People working for the same organization that's been trying to silence you. Maya, we've been trying to reach you safely for days, but every communication channel you had access to was compromised. As I pulled up to the federal building, I could see genuine FBI agents waiting, along with legitimate news crews who'd been following the live stream. My viewer count had exploded past 10,000, and hashtag Moldgate was trending on social media. Agent Martinez met me at the building entrance, her credentials verified by the building security in full view of my live stream audience. Maya, that safety deposit box Marcus told you about. We got the real contents 3 hours ago. Bank records, wire transfers, communication logs, everything we need to dismantle the entire network. Marcus Brennan wasn't the leader, he was just one tentacle of something much bigger. 6 months later, the final court hearing felt almost anticlimactic. Marcus Brennan and 17 co-conspirators had pled guilty to federal racketeering charges. The fake Dr. Vance, whose real name was Patricia Kowalski, was serving 15 years for conspiracy and wire fraud. 2 judges and 4 law enforcement officials were awaiting their own trials for corruption. The civil lawsuit had been settled for $2.8 million, split among 43 victims across 3 states. More importantly, new federal regulations now required independent health inspections for all student housing, and universities could lose federal funding for failing to protect student whistleblowers. I finished my thesis on corporate crime and institutional corruption and graduated summa cum laude. Jake got into a federal prosecutor's internship program specifically focused on housing fraud cases. But the best outcome was watching Jessica Park walk across the graduation stage last spring, healthy and breathing normally for the first time in years. Sometimes the system works. Sometimes justice actually happens. You just have to be stubborn enough to live stream the whole thing until it does.